Peace, folks. It's Reverend Carmen D. Player, and this is the Cosmic Hype Podcast. Have your perspective elevated. Y'all, I get it. I get it. This time truly feels like a tempest in a tea kettle. It's very easy to fall into a place of despair and burnout because that's intentional, right? When we're 3 weeks in and we're seeing what we are right now, when we've seen for over 15 months the extended ethnic cleansing of a people, when we see the people of the Congo, of Sudan, of Haiti, of all these different places that continue to experience such deep suffering, when we look at what's happening to our earth, when we see these massive climate events happening, when we see in our own communities the pain and the hurt that's happening, it's very easy to get into a place of fear. And that's intentional, right? It's very intentional. Because let me be very clear. It's not happenstance that the attacks are happening in the way that they are. All these sweeping executive orders and these statements are made to assault us, not only to divide our attention and our energy, but to also be a psychological and spiritual, a mental assault on us, right? It's a full frontal attack in a lot of ways. And I want to make sure that we also just take a pause and recognize what the MO is here, right? If you throw enough stuff at people, then they'll get overwhelmed, they'll become transfixed, they'll become mute, and they will become numb. They'll just have to survive. If they can just get to the place where we're just surviving, then are we going to pay attention or care about anything else, right? And so they're doing everything possible for us to shut down into this place of numbness and being transfixed so that we will maintain the structures in place, the power that is in place, and to then give up, if you will, our fight, our will. It's fear. They're really banking on fear because fear is very powerful. Here's the thing. This might be a little controversial, but I'm going to say it. Faith and fear are actually the same kind of energy. And so they have the same kind of response when applied. See, there's a book of bars. It has some good quotes and good stories and things like that. That's very popular. A lot of folks read it. But one of the verses in that defines faith as, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. See, within that definition, if you just look and think about it, hope for is the substance of things hoped for. It resonates with joy and good things. It's very high vibe, right? It's the things in the future that you're looking forward to, that your goals, your dreams, your plans, your visions, things that are generally very life affirming, right? Things that you want, things that you yearn for. And the evidence of the things not seen, all the different things, the prayers, the tears, the hard work, the late nights, the sacrifices, the boundaries that had to be put in, but all the different things that are unseen that allow that faith, that thing that you hope for, to become substance, right? And so faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. You don't have to see the work that I do. You'll see it in the substance, right? You'll see it in the fruit. And so if that is fear, couldn't you say, or excuse me, if that is faith, if this is faith, then what is fear? Fear would have to be the substance of things dreaded, the anxiety of the future, the things that we have anxiousness about, anxiety about, or apprehension is something in the future that we're dreading. It could even be right now present, right? Because you can have present hope, you can have present fear, you can have present anxiety. So if we are giving ourselves into fear, because fear is a belief, just like faith is a belief, then what are we going to do from that place of fear? And what will be its substance? If we're believing in fear, then we'll start to move in fear. We'll start to make decisions in fear. We'll start to have actions in fear within that fear scope, because it's so massive. There's lack and scarcity. There is there's a belief that there's only win some instead of win all, right? That there's just winning, period. That there has to be a loser, right? There's this fear of annihilation. There's all this fear piece, right? There's a lot of belief in all this. And so what happens when people have those beliefs that resonate with fear and make actions? That's what we're seeing right now. Right? And so this is what fear and otherness is, when it's given a lot of folks and a lot of energy and a lot of power. This is what it looks like, right? It's the systems that are going to be supported by people who are living in fear. They're fearful if they were to resist. They're fearful if they're what you consider a different experience. They're fearful of what would happen if I were to say no. It's fearful of what is on the other side if I say that this isn't the life for me, or fearful to say if I come into my full existence, what will happen? What will I have to forfeit? What's on the other side there, right? Fear has always kept people within the boundaries of, within the boundaries and the refrain of the next best and great thing, right? The best and highest good is always on the other side of the fear, right? Because at some point, if we continue to resonate in fear and give ourselves into the fear of the moment, right? Even fear of the future, then we're giving energy, we're giving substance to that thing to manifest and be in our experience, right? Because if we take the time to just pause, right? Part of this multi point assailant is to see what's going to stick, right? And what can they get away with? But in the meantime, let's F up some people's hearts and spirits and minds and make them fearful, so they'll hide and they'll be small and they'll just get along because they don't want to be targets or whatever it is. Not recognize there's no shade in that, but it's definitely a tactic, right? And so if we stay in a place of fear, we shut down and we close down and we create this energy of I got to take care of me and mine, then we're actually giving into that experience that they want us to eventually have as a continual experience, for us to believe that this is the reality, as opposed to knowing that reality is fickle, malleable, and transmutable. Because what we give energy to, it does not matter whether it's good energy or bad energy or whatever it is that we're giving energy to is going to become. And it doesn't matter if you're for it or against it. Whatever we're collectively giving our energy to is going to become. So this is our invitation to interrupt the fear, right? And really examine what it is that we are going to be putting our energy and our action and our time and our resources and our future to. Are we giving our future to the fear, or are we going to give our future to the faith and the substance of the things to hope for and the evidence of things not seen, of the existence that we want for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, or nieces and nephews and nibblings and things? It doesn't have to necessarily come from you, but the future is all of ours and our collective responsibility. If we are focusing on the fear, then we're not giving ourselves and our future and our community the opportunity, resources, and the necessary energy and power to not only plant the seeds, but nurture the plants and the bountiful community that we have, right? Because there are folks that are already on the front lines hitting every single one of the things that they are hitting us with right now. There's already somebody already at the front lines. If you need somebody, there's Lambda Leo, right? If you want to, ACLU. There are different ways that we can support people who are already in the front lines, or dealing with each one of these fronts, right? Sometimes it's us being right there in the front. Sometimes it's also providing the support of the people and the entities and groups who are actually right there fighting for us, because they have the knowledge, skill, whatever it is, right? To be more effective than if I were to go over here to go do this, right? And so what I'm saying is, instead of us spending our time in a place of fear, we can give ourselves the invitation and the permission, and quite honestly, the commission, to have faith, to have hope, to do things explicitly that create seeds and nourishing experiences and nourishes our soul and our spirit and our community, right? Because right now they're utilizing fear, and it's effective for so many of us because we're fearful of what could happen. It's like, well, maybe I need to get smaller. Maybe I should like not take up as much space because something could happen to me. That's what they're banking on, right? So we have to shift from us being in a place of obsessing in a place of fear because we're giving that energy and we're going to give it substance, to shifting very intentionally to having hope and faith and making actions of the world that we want on the other side of this. Because we are at a critical point right now in human history. Never, ever in human history have so many human beings been so connected and see what's going on. So we've been given this charge and we've been coming here to this timeline to experience all this, to change the reality because it's fickle, it's transmutable. We can change this reality, but to what? Right? We are now the doulas of the new human consciousness, because if we continue to maintain how we've been going right now with this deep level of division, we are going to perish. Guaranteed, it's happening. We can see the data. We know that if we maintain this deep belief in separation and otherness and lack and limitation, and that some are more superior than the others and some are inferior, some are worthy and some are not worthy, we will continue to kill ourselves and each other. There will be no reason for us to actually be here if we're not going to actually be here together. That's literally why we don't live in different bubbles, right? Is that the whole lesson here is for us to be together because we are together on this planet right now, right? And so we who have been called as light guardians is what I would say. Those of us who have been called as light guardians, as those who are doulas of the shift of the human consciousness, we must stay in a place of faith. We must stay in a place of community and reaching. We must intentionally have a practice of not only like doing the work of the seed bearing and tilling the grounds and going out in community organizing and doing all this. We also have to go into a place of imagination of complete possibility without cost or consequence, because we got to get big. Because if we don't have necessarily the moon, we can get the stars, right? And so we must create a practice that helps to nourish our faith, not engage in habits that actually encourage our fear. What is that? What's that for us, right? You know what it is, right? If it's something that's going to create this place where you're constantly saying the same narratives and it's negative and it's not life affirming, you don't even recognize it. Like, what's your response, right? Just pause. What's your response when you see a thing or hear a thing and be like, ooh, is that helping for the future I want? Janelle Monáe has a song called Cold War, and they say, this is a cold war. You got to know what you're fighting for. What is the world that we want to have, right? Because we're fighting right now to end and to protect and think about the future and like having protection, so on and so forth. Thank you, God. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being valiant champions of our rights as we stand to ensure that democracy is preserved. We're working on it. And what's on the other side of that? When do we start creating the world that we want to exist in? When does that world happen? When do those community and mutual aid and shared partnership of our earth and being stewards of our resources, when do we start doing that? When do we start to experience that? It has to be now, right? And so this is the invitation for us to get grounded and pause. If we just pause and not stir ourselves up into a frenzy, and I don't want to make it sound like how, back in the day they used to call people quote unquote hysterical because they had good thoughts or whatever, or maybe we're free. I'm not saying don't listen to what's happening and pay attention to your body. Don't listen to your body and what's happening and pay attention, be vigilant and stuff. But also consume it responsibly, because we are responsible for the future, right? So if we are constantly feeding our mind and our spirit and our souls things that are not life affirming, we have to recognize we are actively helping to thwart or stop the future that we want to have, right? And this is not like, judgment or anything else like that. It's us being really mindful. And so every time that there is something that comes out into our social media on our phone, because it's constantly on there, if it's an email, if it's in the work announcements and everything else like that, it feels like it's getting bleaker and bleaker. Recognize this isn't opportunity for us to usher in the next level of human experience, right? So it's going to get gnarly before it is a beautiful experience. Like I think about how with the delivery of like a human or other mammals in the sort, that laboring experience is one that is painful, from what I hear, that is painful, that is scary, and that they're, with each contraction and each one of these painful, sharp moments, is also an invitation to push forward, right? To bring forth this life. Or it's a time to pause and like, woo, we need to reassess and figure out what this pain means. How do we make this the most life-affirming experience? How do we turn this thing around? Because sometimes that is a thing. You got to turn the whole baby around. And so we are in labor. We are, I don't know, some centimeters, if this is like 1 or 2, my Lord. But on the other side, the glory of this little being, right? The hope that even still in that moment of hope, there's also what I hear, there's a lot of fear that happens with that too. And we go each moment and step, each day at a time. But let us be clear. Just like in the delivery of human beings into this realm, there are many that don't survive. And many don't survive because of malpractice. Many don't survive because of resources. Many don't survive because they've been marginalized and ostracized and strategically targeted, and they will be lost, and they will be the sacrifice of the deliverance for the soul of humanity. That is a woeful and sorrowful truth about this next of evolution and experience, is that there will be many of people who will not make it. And so those who will not, like, we also have a responsibility, I believe, and a moral imperative to ensure that the lives that have been lost, have been taken, are honored, right? That our tears would be our libations, but also that we have joy for them, right? That we create for them. Because we have to make sure we continue to exist through this as well. We have to take care of our souls. We have to take care of our spirits, because we're going to experience a lot, and it's going to be very painful. And I hope and I know and I trust and affirm that on the other side of this is our best existence yet. But we have to hold on. We have to continue to make it. We have to have faith. We have to have faith. We have to have faith. We have to see what is possible. We have to push for that. We have to unceasingly hope. That doesn't mean unceasingly move. That doesn't mean unceasingly sacrifice or die. Or it doesn't mean that. It means that we never give up the faith. We never give up the hope. We never let them take our soul. We never let them take our spirit. They never can take who we are. And we've heard this in so many different places and spaces and movies but it's so true. It's us. We are it. We are it. And so please hold on to the faith. Hold on to the hope. That's the first thing that is ours to do. I think another thing for us to do, if I were to ask Spirit, what is mine to do? What is mine to do? It's so big. Everything is multifarious. It's one of my favorite words, multifarious. It can get overwhelming. It's like this massive Leviathan. It's so overwhelming. It's so big. But that big world, it's not possible without your world. Where you are is as important as the big world. You see, going back to what I was saying before, in order for example, a genocide to happen, people have to go along with it. Genocide doesn't get picked off of a tree. Genocide doesn't just materialize out of air. It has to have conducive conditions. It has to be nourished. It has to be encouraged. It has to be allowed to get bigger and to function so efficiently. You see, the thing about it, genocide had to happen within the souls and the spirits of people to allow it. And it happened with years of otherness. It happened with years of them over there, us over here. It happened when people started getting numb to seeing children hurt, to allowing things to happen like apartheid. That makes the atmosphere of the people, the consciousness of the people, it makes the consciousness of the people conducive for genocide to perpetuate. It happens with otherness. So why am I saying that? Because within myself, I can say within myself, I want to examine myself, my actions, my motives, my intentions, to make sure that it is nothing that is conducive for such an atrocity to happen, and I be numb to it and I do nothing, right? I need to make this space and this place as loving and compassionate and kind and joyous and abundant and peaceful as possible, and to create that experience, usher that experience, facilitate that experience as much as possible in the spaces I've been given. You see, my beloved brother, Armand, told me one time I was trying to figure out if I wanted to leave Georgia, or if I was going to go to DC, or if I was going to stay in Georgia. And I was just upset. And I was like, but the kid's here, and so on and so forth. And he looked at me and he said, the revolution is where you are. The revolution is where you are. You see, a revolution is an action, a movement, a shift in time and history and events, where it's the absolute opposite of the status quo and the existing structure, paradigm. And so if we're seeing this deep level of separation and otherness on a grand scale, what is the revolution where you are? The revolution is where you are. Love is the revolution. It is the opposite of what we're seeing in mass experience. So love is the revolution, and you are a revolutionary of where you are. You're a revolutionary of compassion and love if you choose to, right? We can make a choice in the spaces that we've been given to embody what we want to see in the world, right? And so when we are committing ourselves in our actions, when we have any kind of power, seat, resources, and the sort, to commit to creating the world that we want to see, I do so personally in my own professional world, because I believe that we can be leaders of compassion and love. I believe that we can have workplaces of compassion and love if we choose to do so together, right? I know it's possible. I've seen it. I've done it, right? And so if this is what I choose and want to see, I have to believe that it's possible. So I have to breathe it. I have to do it. Now, am I perfect? No. Oh gosh, I got some places that the Lord is still healing, okay? The Lord's still working on it. And I have also seen and I've received what it's like when we create communities of compassion and love. Like, we have enough for all of us, right? And so in our neighborhoods, in our communities, when we reach for each other and we build sustainable networks to take care of each other, then we start to usher in and create the seeds and the experience conducive for the new evolution of our human consciousness and therefore experience. And so right now, what are you doing in the spaces that you've been given to usher in the next experience for humans, for ourselves, for our consciousness, right? Are you also giving into faith and hope for the things that we want to see? Or are we giving into the belief of the things that we fear and anxieties? You see, with this fickle reality and the power that we have, the possibility is endless. It's absolutely endless. But please don't let them make you believe that we have no power, that we can't change it. Because we're divine beings with infinite possibilities at our disposal, right? At our use, and we can usher in this next experience if we choose to collectively. But I'm going to be talking about a whole bunch of this, breaking it down even further. Hopefully this will, hit somewhere where it needs to. Hopefully this will get exactly where it needs to. I'm trusting that it is. As always, take what serves you, please leave what doesn't. But I hope you walk away with this gift and this knowing, this affirmation. You are whole, you are holy, you are worthy, and you are loved. Right on to the right on. Take care, folks. Peace.